We're pleased to have with us Dr. Nick Angotti. Hi, Nick.
Hey, hi, good morning.
Thank you for being us. Nick, if you don't mind me saying this, you have lived a very fascinating life. Nick is an actor and has starred in over 50 television shows, has appeared in about 12 feature films, and in hundreds of commercials. Nick is also a minister of religious science and earned a doctorate of divinity in 2008. He has produced his own television show called Say Yes to Life, which explores spirituality and the human condition. He has also produced 2 television series, one called Restorative Justice in Action and another called Seasons for Nonviolence, Chicago Youth. Nick is the executive director of Transcendance Global Media and the founder and executive director of Peace on Earth Film Festival. Nick, once again, thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you. This is a good thing.
Excellent. Now, you have accomplished many things in your life. In being an actor and a minister, story seems to have an important place for you. Can you tell us a bit about the importance of story?
Well, a story is essential to everything. I mean, when we go out, for instance, when we go out to speak to kids with our Dialogue for Peace program, and I know we'll get more into that later, but when we go out there, the thing we want to emphasize with them is that story is essential to everything, and that each one of them has a story that needs to be told, because story frees us up. Margaret Wheatley, we use her quote. She said, "You can't hate the one whose story you know."
Wow, that's
once you
beautiful,
yeah. Story, it bonds you. It just bonds you.
And every story is unique. There is no generic story, and that means every child is unique. And if they've got their own story,
Wow.
I think that's a great thing.
Wow.
Well, Nick, the Dialogue for Peace program. Can you talk about that, what that is, and how it came about?
Yes, I will. But I want to go back a bit, 1 second. Story is also essential with our festival, because what we look for when we see films, even though we're looking for the best film as far as quality of production, but what's essential is that we have a good story, and the story is being told.
Wow.
What is it that makes a story good? Because there are stories.
Go ahead. What I believe makes a story good is something that's compelling, something that holds you. Oftentimes with the kids, I'll ask them, "What's your favorite film?" And many of them will bring up films that have violence in it, and the reason why is they really want to say it needs conflict. And conflict can come in many ways. Ideally, it could come with someone having to deal with themselves, someone having to deal with the elements, or someone having to deal with another force around them, another individual or set of circumstances. So, ideally, with the stories we seek out, we want to see issues around the world that any issue that disrupts the individual's capacity to live life freely is essential to what we call peace. And so we look for stories that have conflict, but the conflict usually is with the circumstances around them and how they grapple with that and come to resolution, because we also seek resolution.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because conflict is inevitable amongst humans, but there are, I guess, positive ways that we can deal with conflict. Can you give us an example of one of the movies that you show that brings up this conflict and a positive way of dealing with it?
Well, one of our award winners, or excuse me, it wasn't an award winner, but one of the major highlights of our first festival was a film called The Imam and the Pastor.
Oh.
And it dealt with, and I can't recall the country right now, but it dealt with the issues of religion in this particular country. And not only, it was Africa, but not only was it feuding religions, but it was feuding clans trying to kill each other. One of the, I believe it was the imam who lost his brother, and the minister who lost use of one arm, And they finally realized that the only way that they were going to resolve anything was to get together, find a common convergence or a convergence of theory, a convergence of thoughts, and discover where their beliefs were common. And they began preaching together. They began, well, the word preaching doesn't sound right for me right now, but they began speaking on the qualities of the other, and they healed the issues within their territory, within their community, between these two rival factions.
So instead of seeking revenge or punishment for wrongdoing, they focused on healing.
Yes. They searched out the healing.
Important distinction.
Go ahead.
Quite an important distinction.
Absolutely. We also get films that stress story, but don't necessarily come to resolve, that are there to try and provoke the audience into changing their concepts or their ideas or their theories on life. And we see a number of films like that. For instance, we reviewed a film just yesterday that dealt with a Indian medicine man in North Dakota, and it was apparently it's the most impoverished community, most impoverished county in the country. And this Indian medicine man was accused by his former daughter-in-law of molesting her children. He was proven not guilty by the tribal inquisition or the tribal council, but he was still put on trial because there are still elements going on within our country, in particular areas where indigenous people still live, to try and suppress them. And he went to jail, even though there was no evidence, even though he was impotent. He still went to jail because they refused to listen to the evidence. And so these are issues, too, that just need to be heard. And we have two common threads within our mission, within our vision, and that's one is to give voice to filmmakers so they can tell stories that don't normally reach exhibition, don't normally reach theaters. So we seek to find them an audience, and we also seek to create dialogue on issues.
Okay.
And dialogue happens at the venue where we have our festival, but dialogue also extends, of course, into our Dialogue for Peace outreach program, which we bring to the schools.
Right, which is very exciting. I mean, and I don't know of any other film festival or film, venue at all that includes, that is as inclusive as the Peace on Earth Film Festival, because you bring the whole Chicago public school system into it. How did that come about? How did you begin to outreach to the schools?
Well, it's interesting because in my ministry, the ministry, the religious science that I've taught for years is the positive energy that exists around this thing most people call God, and how to recognize that there's a goodness in it all. And I had one of the people who used to come quite often on Sundays, had been teaching in the schools for a number of years, and also had been lobbying the school board to bring more positive concepts to students in school. And he wanted me to help develop a program that would do this with the things we teach within the religion. Well, the more I thought about it, I thought, I don't have to go the religious route. We've got films coming in. Why don't we create a program around the films? Yeah. And we got very close to selling the idea to Chicago Public Schools, and then forces beyond our control created a disrupt. So Melissa Pacelli, who's one of our co-founders and directors, and Clayton Monacle is also a co-founder and director, but specifically Melissa and I decided to create a program where we would select several films, invite students and their teachers from schools around Chicago to come to the Cultural Center, which is our venue for the festival, to come on the first day in the morning, and we would present films there. and we would engage the kids in dialogue on the content of the film. And what happened after that was it was just a grand success. And one of the teachers, as well as a director of International Baccalaureate Studies in one of the schools, elementary schools, came to us and said, "How can we get this film?" And I said, "Well, we have a program." As of yet, we hadn't developed it. He said, "We have a program to go into the schools." And he said, "How much?" And I gave him a price, and he went, well, we can't do that. And I said, "Well, how about your school and you help us pilot this?" And he says, "Okay." And that's what happened. So Melissa and I sat down. We went into Illinois, went into all the different websites to give us an idea of what the standards were for Illinois curriculum, and we created a standard around some basic essentials, and we piloted it in April of 2010, and since then we've seen over 5,000 kids in over 18 different schools.
Wow. Nick, this is fascinating to me because a lot of feelings are that the schools in Chicago are hopeless. There's a lot of despair about the violence that's going on in schools, not just in Chicago, but around the country. What hope have you found in your work for youth?
Well, what hope? Hope is the word you used?
Yeah.
Oh, well, frankly, I was a kid who was always disrupting the class.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was young, I went through a series of incidents with teachers that I believe didn't understand me, and they were cruel in their punishment. And so I do my best to see myself in the kids. And I found out after the fact. I went into Harper High School a couple of years ago with our program, and we had to reduce it to 20 minutes. It's normally an hour and a half to 2 hours. We had to reduce it to 20 minutes, and so I was really put to the test. And it was a film based on assumptions. That was the core theme, is what we assume about Americans, what we assume about life. And so I built the whole 20 minutes on assumptions along with the film, and some of the kids look like, they may have been in gangs or certainly in that area of where they could go in that direction. Mm. And so what I did my best to, if I needed them to come in closer, if I needed them to listen, if I needed them to turn off a cell phone or whatever, I would go over and whisper in their ear that it's really important that we hear what you have to say, and if you're not listening, then you're not going to be able to have the information to voice what you have to say or what your opinion is. And every one of those kids moved into the circle. They put their devices down, and I found out later that,
wow.
In fact, within the past several months, I found out that particular group was a group of kids that fall into the category of at risk. In other words, they're not in gangs yet, but they're at risk because they're in a marginal stage where they could easily go in that direction. I had no idea that was the group that they had given me, and I heard that what we had that day was created an impact. Can we measure that impact? The only way we're going to be able to measure the impact is our intention is to develop a program where we can come in, let's say, once a month or every 3 weeks over a period of, say, 3, 4, 5 months, and then begin to measure whether we've made an impact.
Wow, yeah.
It's powerful because it sounds to me like you're not only modeling healthy relationships for the students that you interact with, but also for the teachers. So oftentimes teachers will use punishment techniques such as shaming. So if somebody is texting or something, you yell at them, say, put your phone away.
Or kick them out of the classroom.
Exactly, or kick them out of the classroom. But what you are flipping that around and saying, what we need to do is empower our children, give them a voice. Do you find yourself not only creating a positive environment for students, but also modeling a different way for teachers?
Yes. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, when we talked to the International Baccalaureate Director at the Locke Elementary School. When we talked to her about it, later she wrote in a letter back to us to endorse. She said that this is a program that the schools need, the teachers need, and the students need. And it's a program that expands, that can expand on programs the teachers have already begun. Recently, we went into an elementary school in the Chatham area of Chicago, and the principal there said that I'm not quoting her, but this is essentially what she said, is that there's not enough emphasis on social studies. What we have expands on social studies, that oftentimes the kids don't even pay attention to the news, that they may come out of households that don't pay attention to the news, and we are bringing essential ideas to the kids, engaging them in discussions, and causing them to become more current, causing them to become more aware. And she even said this particular program that we have, Dialogue for Peace, should not only be in her school, but all schools throughout Chicago, because her kids will get it, and they'll go back into the neighborhood, and they'll be with kids who didn't get it, and it'll just bring them back, could bring them back to where they were.
And once again, your whole method is to bring the children, bring the young people into it, because they matter, their opinions matter, and their thoughts matter. That's not the way we think of education. It's usually something administered from the outside, and all the role of the children is to absorb it and pay attention. But it doesn't. But they're not part of it. You're saying that they're part of it.
Exactly. What their opinion is absolutely essential, because oftentimes it's like you cut open the top of their head and just pour in information,
right.
And what they have to say is not important. They just need to regurgitate what's been given to them. One of our teachers said that what we have is rigorous, and it engages the students. And the students, when they are engaged, they become excited about what they're learning at school, and they want to be excited about what they're learning.
Absolutely, yeah. That's great.
The dialogue is absolutely essential, and that's what we do. We let them know initially that their opinion is important, and the only way that we're going to change the world is by helping them to engage in dialogue where they can begin to understand each other. Break down the resistance within the individual and within the coupling of individuals in the classroom, and you begin to plant the seeds for greater peace in the world.
Wow.
That's great. How can, if people are interested in getting involved, how might they do that?
Well, our website is peaceonearthfilmfestival.org. They can also put in POEFF.org, and that'll bring them to our festival website. They can also contact us through info@peaceonearthfilmfestival.org.
And if a teacher should happen to be listening in on this, are there materials on your website that could help them out in creating this type of program?
If they can contact me directly at Nick Peace on Earth Film Festival.
Okay.
And I will send to them within 24 hours everything they need.
Wonderful. Well, Nick, thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Excellent.
And best of luck in all of your projects in the future. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.